Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and I have returned. You guys have been watching pre-scheduled videos for the past, well, yeah, about solid week at this point. I was out of town for about a week or so, which is why we haven't gotten to these changes until today. I do have I was going to say that I have a second life, or is this my second life, or, ooh. That's a nice existential moment, right? But anyway, yeah, that's why we didn't talk about these changes until today. So I do apologize for that. But again, I have a life and job outside of YouTube. So again, this does happen at times. But anyway, so yeah, while I was gone, Wargaming announced a whole slew of changes, most of them buffs to quite a few ships that did desperately need it, and many of these changes do make me quite happy. I did peruse through them while I was away, but today we're going to get down into it. It's going to take a minute because it is quite a bit of changes, so grab yourself a cookie and something to drink, and let's go ahead and get started. So, Public Test 13.1 Balance Changes. We're applying balance changes to many ships based on an analysis of both their combat statistics as well as extensive player feedback. And I can tell you for some of these, there's been a lot of player feedback. Alright, so starting off with the Techline Tier 6 Japanese carrier, the Ryujo. The torpedo bomber parameters have been changed. The stock squadron preparation time has been increased from 74 to 81 seconds. The researchable aircraft squadron prep time has been increased from 73 to 78 seconds. And the torpedo damage has been decreased from 54 to just a flat 5,000. Ryujo was, and I still would say after this change, a very strong tier 6 CV, so slight nerf there to the prep time and to the torpedo damage. The Japanese carriers have some of the best consistent damage dealing torpedoes across the board, so yeah, that is a bit of a nerf there, but again, it's very easy to get consistent torpedo hits on target with those guys. But anyway, the Hayate, the long-awaited Hayate buff. The main battery reload booster has been decreased from 4 to 3.7 seconds. Sorry, not the booster. The reload time has been decreased from 4 to 3.7 seconds. So that's a nice buff there to the main battery reload time. And the Hayate, as I've been told by the DD Lords, is more of a gunboat, Shimakaze. But it does have a torpedo reload booster that is now in a separate slot, meaning that you don't have to pick between it and whatever other consumable you could fit there. It is now available as a standalone consumable, which is a huge buff to the Hayate, the ability to, have that and the other consumable available at the same time. Big buff there to the Hayate, long overdue. Hayate was a ship that, I mean, for years I haven't recommended it because it's just so mediocre. But this, nice big buff to the ship there. And I do have the Hayate, so it'd be nice to test it out after that. So the Securyu, the Japanese Super CV, the tactical torpedo bomber's torpedo damage reduced from 9,333 to 7,500. And then the tactical attack aircraft rockets parameters have been changed. They've been nerfed as well. 3,150 to 2,850 for the damage. The fire chance has been reduced from 14 to 12%. So some buffs on the Super CVs. Surprise, the broken carriers are broken and needed some nerfs. Alright, now we're on to the America tech lines. Yeah, so it looks like they split this up by nation, so I guess that's probably how I'll split the video up with the chapters. Alright, so the Clemson, the Tier 4 American destroyer, the stock torpedo reload time was increased from 40 to 44 seconds, and the researchable torpedo reload time was increased from 66 to 70 seconds, so a 4-second buff there, nerf there to the Clemson with both set of torpedoes. Torpedo spam down at Tier 4 is pretty much how DDs live and die by, so yeah, I'm not really sure how much feedback they're getting for Tier 4 ships, considering most players blitz through that in like 3 games, but okay. And here we go, the California is finally getting some buffs. So her reload time is being reduced from 34 to 32.5 seconds. So big buff there to the California, gaining almost 2 full seconds in reload time. And that makes so much sense. The California, like I've mentioned before when talking about her, and like the Arizona, same ship. Why would you get the California? Even the reload time is like similar, but now much faster reload. And they've changed the parameters of the engine. It now has the same acceleration that like the Vermont has, where it's quick to get up to speed and it's quick to stop. So it's going to be a little bit more maneuverable and a little bit more bearable to play. You're not going to have this just, continent that you're trying to control like it currently is. So big ups there for buffing the California in my mind. And it doesn't stop there. The Florida gets a reload buff as well. The reduction is from 33.5 seconds to 32 seconds. So that is what, a 2.5 second reload buff for the Florida. Now you might be thinking 2.5 seconds, that's nothing, but look, it really is something when you start looking at like the DPM figures and stuff, right? That much of a buff, especially to a battleship, is massive, right? So Florida, big ups there. I really do like playing the Florida. It's, it's the North Carolina that was supposed to be but never was. So it's an interesting, what if ship. What if the escalator clause was never put into effect and the North Carolina could not be armed with the 9 16-inch guns? All right, in the Indianapolis, another buff to the Indianapolis from a reload buff, coming in the form of a reduction in her reload time from 14.3 seconds to 13 seconds. So, yeah, Indianapolis, this is the second buff in a row for the Indianapolis, yeah. And the Hornet, it's just America's day. America's just eating here. So the Hornet has been buffed as well. Surprisingly, the tactical bomber squadron, that the flight of B-25s that the Hornet gets, is getting a buff. The bomb damage is being increased from 7,300 to 8,000 flat for the B-25s, and the fire chance is getting a 4% buff on top of that. And that was already a good squadron. You could chunk the living crap out of pretty much whatever you wanted for like at least 10k, if not more. The reticle is nice and small. It's a circle. It's really easy to carpet bomb medium to large size targets with it. But I mean, I really haven't been seeing too many Hornets, right? Like, it's got a lot of name recognition, but you don't really see them too much. So I guess they saw that she wasn't being played enough, and they're, well, buffing her now, because they do that, right? If you guys don't know, Wargaming will buff something just because it's not popular and it's not being played. They've done that in the past, and they've said as much. All right, speaking of carriers, the Nebraska, the Delaware, and the Louisiana all are getting buffs to their dive bombers. The bombers now have the JATO rocket boosters like the Soviet CVs have, and the bomb pin is being increased from 42 to 53 millimeters there. So that's terrifying. Now they can pin 53 millimeters of armor, and yeah. But keep in mind, they did just get a pretty heavy nerf to their reticle not that long ago, to where you can't just, basically assure that all those bombs are going to land within, like, a ship anymore. So they got a pretty big nerf, and this seems to be a pretty, okay-ish counter buff to that nerf, but we'll see how it goes. And the Annapolis is being nerfed from her burst. It is now a 1.5 second burst in between the intervals instead of a 1 second burst. And the surveillance radar is being nerfed from a 40-second runtime to a 35-second runtime. And the super carrier of the United States is getting a nerf as well. Her tactical torpedo bombers torpedo damage is being reduced from 7,600 to 6,133. So another 2 super ships being nerfed. That's good. Again, I don't like super ships. They're dumb. They're literally broken ships you're paying more to play. All right. Now we're getting to the Soviets. So right off the bat, the Mikoyan, the Tier 5 premium Soviet cruiser, her main battery accuracy has been changed. They state they will now be similar to other cruisers on Tier 5. So I'm assuming it's going to be more accurate. I haven't played a lot of the Mikoyan, but all right. They're also buffing her reload time from 13.2 seconds to 11 seconds. So another 2.2 second solid buff there for the Mikoyan. The AP shells are getting a slight buff as well, from a 4,550 maximum damage to 4,650. So a 100 damage pickup there on the AP shells. The Kiev, which is the Tier 8 Soviet destroyer, the stock hull HP pool has been increased from 14,500 to 16,200. That's nice. And the researchable hull HP pool has been increased from 16,200 to 17,500. Nice buffs there to the Kiev. Now the Khabarovsk, one of my favorites that have been absolutely nerfed into the ground and just left there in the dirt, is finally getting some love, some much needed love. Alright, the repair party consumable has been replaced with specialized repair teams. That's right, ladies and gents. The Khabarovsk is getting an improved heal. I'm not quite sure if this is a super heal. I mean, it sounds pretty freaking good for a DD. HP restoration time is going... I'm sorry, the restoration rate is going to be 225 points of HP per second. Active for 20 seconds, reloads in 80 seconds. You get 3 charges base, so you can get 4 with the commander skill. My god, my Khabarovsk finally is getting a buff. There's been no reason to play this ship if you have the Kleber, right? For the past, how long has the Kleber been out now? 2-3 years? So, yep, long overdue buff for the Khabarovsk. I cannot wait for it to come out so I can finally enjoy my Khabarovsk again. Oh, man. I could spend so much time talking about the Khabarovsk, but we don't really have time for that, so we're going to move on. The Petropavlovsk is getting nerfed. Oh, my God. It's like they actually listen to the community. The detectability range has been increased from 15.3 to 16.3 kilometers. And of course, you know, the other detectability ranges have been adjusted accordingly for that. And the Sevastopol is getting a buff. A ship that so desperately needed it. It's definitely a ship, like I've said so much before, that they just... It's a gimmick too far with the Sevastopol. And they seem to have realized that now. So here's what they're doing. The main battery reload time is being reduced from 25 to 24 seconds, and they're tweaking the repair party. So the action time is now 60 seconds instead of 90 seconds, and the cooldown time has been reduced from 180 to 120 seconds, and they've increased the charges from 3 to 4 seconds. So they don't say if they're changing the amount of HP that's restored per second, so I'm assuming they're not. It seems to be that they're going more to a standardized heal at this point. I mean, it still has a 60-second runtime, right? That's a very long run duration on that heal. And to my knowledge, they haven't clarified if it's going to heal the same amount, just at a quicker pace. So we don't know for sure just yet. So this could be a buff. It could be a nerf. I'm not too sure. They don't clarify. But if it's the same amount of HP, except it takes a minute to deliver instead of a minute and a half, I think that's a pretty good pickup, because that means you can get it, you know, that charge recharging faster, and it does. They did cut 60 seconds off of the recharge time too, so it only takes 2 minutes now instead of 3 minutes to recharge. So there we go. It makes it a little bit more useful, and you get another charge of it overall too. So I would say that overall that is a buff. All right, the Zorky, the super destroyer for the Soviets. The number of shots in burst firing mode decreased from 4 to 3, so yet another super ship nerf. I always approve of those. Alright, we're on to the British now, starting off with the Colossus. And all of us Colossi owners, get ready for this. Change the parameters of attack aircraft. Number of rockets per plane reduced from 6 to 5. Size of aiming ellipse increased by 20%. The amount of rockets that are guaranteed to hit closer to the center of the aiming ellipse reduced from 50% to 33%. And basically they go on to say in a paragraph that, yeah, it was too good at just nuking the cruisers out of existence, so now they're, making the ellipse bigger, and they're ensuring that less rockets go toward the center of the ellipse, to where now it's going to, not just nuke the Citadel out of existence. You'll hit more of the ship as a whole and miss more, so it should basically nerf the Colossus, right? And finally, we're getting a Colossus nerf, which is weird because the ship, you can't even buy the ship right now, right? It's another case of they released it, it was out for a little bit, and now it's gone, so yeah, because wargaming, right? Alright, the Duncan, the Tier 9 British battlecruiser, main battery reload time decreased from 31 to 29.5 seconds, so a buff there. And the repair party consumable reload time increased from 80 to 100 seconds. So you pick up a second and a half in reload time, but you get another 20 seconds on your consumable reload time for the repair party. I mean, more DPM, and it is a super heal too, right? So I think that's a pretty fine trade-off there. So yeah, I think that's fine. St. Vincent gets a nerf to the repair party reload time as well, same as the Duncan, a 20-second nerf to bring its reload time for the repair party consumable up to 100 seconds, and they increase the detectability range. St. Vincent's a very strong ship, so I don't think it's really going to hurt it too much. I mean, the detection nerf, it's 0.4 kilometers, so instead of having a 50.8 detection, it's now 16.2, which once you build into it is still a very, very good concealment, right? Along with the maneuverability and speed of the ship and those 9 457mm guns. So I don't think it's really going to hurt it too much. Like I said, St. Vincent's a very strong ship right now, so it did need to get balanced, right? All right, and the Malta gets a buff and a nerf. So the torpedo bomber torpedo damage has been increased from 5,933 to 6,533. So a 600 increase on the torpedo damage. The bombs and the payload for the dive bombers, however, were decreased from 4 to 3. And that was Malta's thing, you know, just absolutely bathe a target in those AP bombs. So, you know, you're taking 1 off per plane. That takes quite a bit off per run. So some fair trades there on the Malta. I think it's still going to be an incredibly strong CV. And then the Eagle, the one of the best super carriers from what I've been told, has gotten nerfed as well. The tactical attack aircraft rocket parameters were changed. The damage was reduced from 2,350 to 2,050. The fire chance was reduced from 9 to 8%, so nerfs there. Tactical dive bomber bomb parameters changed, more nerfs. The damage was reduced from 7,900 to 6,400, while the fire chance was reduced from 45 to 36%. So again, one of the strongest super CVs in the game, properly so that it's getting nerfed. And now the French. That's right, we're still going, fellas. The Jaguar, the Tier 5 French destroyer. The torpedo parameters were changed. The reload time was decreased from 90 to 75 seconds. The range was reduced from 8 to 7.5 kilometers. The damage was reduced from 14,000 to 11,267. And the speed was decreased from 68 to 57 knots. So I'd say overall, some nerfs there on the Jaguar. And then the Bearn gets a nerf too. Increased the dispersion of the skip bombers by 20%. Due to the ship's showing excessive effectiveness when attacking destroyers, we decided to determine that to decrease its attacking potential against smaller targets by decreasing the overall accuracy of the skip bomber's drop. This should bring the carrier more in line with other carriers of the tier. They're not addressing the point that like the Bearn can just deny the other CV the right to play the game for that round, but it's something at least, right? And the Conde, the French supercruiser that I hate so much because of the seasonal clan battles when it was incredibly popular. The main battery reload time was reduced from 15 to 14 seconds, so a buff here for the Conde. Bonus to maximum main battery shell dispersion during burst fire reduced from 40 to 20%. Okay, followed by a pretty steep nerf. So I'll allow it. Alright, the Italians now. The Nazario Soro, the Tier 3 Italian destroyer. Main battery reload time decreased from 6.5 to 6.4 seconds. Sap shell damage decreased from 2,600 to 2,350. And the Averi, the Tier 6 Italian destroyer. Researchable torpedo range reduced from 10 to 8 kilometers. Changed parameters of the emergency engine power consumable. Number of charges reduced 6 to 4. Action time reduced 25 to 20 seconds. The Leone, the Tier 6 Italian premium destroyer. Main battery reload time reduced from 9.5 to 8.5 seconds. Pretty big buff there. Full second gained in reload time. Torpedo launcher reload time reduced from 50 to 45 seconds. Okay, so some buffs for the Leone, one of the most mediocre Tier 6 destroyers. Ah, the Italian battleships, are they getting some love? Thank God. The Vittorio Veneto, the Sigma value was increased from 1.7 to 1.8. The stock hull rudder shift time reduced from 21.7 to 20.2 seconds. Alright. Researchable hull rudder shift time reduced from 15.4 to 14.4 seconds. So, yeah, okay. I'm down for some Vittorio Veneto buffs or some Italian battleship buffs, all in all. The Lepanto received a similar buff in her rudder shift time from 23.3 seconds in the stock rudder to 20.9 seconds, and the upgraded rudder from 16.7 seconds to 14.9 seconds. All right. I mean, maneuverabilities are always great on battleships. I mean, they're inherently very immovable, so any buffs to that does, of course, make that battleship more comfortable to play, especially when it comes to having to angle in your bow in a quick manner. So there we go. All right, in Cristoforo Colombo, Sigma value increased from 1.5 to 1.6. And the firing angles for the aft turrets increased by 10 degrees. Ayo, I'll take that. And again, on rudder shift time buff from 18 seconds to 15.3 seconds. All right, some Italian battleship love finally. Long overdue. All right, now to the Pan-Asians, the Dalian, the Tier 9 Premium Pan-Asian Cruiser. Main battery reload time reduced from 5.2 to 4.9 seconds. Alright. The Sun Yat-sen, in my opinion, one of the worst Tier 9 battleships in the game, premium or not. Main battery AP shell damage increased from 13,000 to 14,500. There we go. That brings her, I believe, more in line with the, a 457 millimeter, equipped battleship. So very, very good there, Wargaming. The Kunming, the Super Pan-Asian Destroyer, base detectability range reduced from 7.8 to 7.4 kilometers. I really haven't seen too many Kunmings in game. They pop up every now and then, so yeah, I can't speak too much on that. So the Split, the Pan-Euro Destroyer, the Tier 8 Pan-Euro Destroyer, main battery reload time reduced from 4 to 3.6 seconds. So a nice little buff there for the Split. And the Lambros Casolnus, I think I said that kind of okay. The Tier 9 Techline Pan-Euro Destroyer, similar buff there. Main battery reload time reduced from 4.4 to 3.8 seconds. The Numancia, the Tier 8 Premium Spanish Cruiser, changed parameters of the burst fire mode, removed the increased shell dispersion debuff. So nice buff there to the Numancia. All right, that's a lot to go through, but I pretty much told you guys my thoughts as we went through. If you want to hear my particular thought on whatever ships or whatever nation's buff, check out the timeline down below. You can pop back to that. But the highlights, the California buff, Hornet buff, Indianapolis buff for me, along with, of course, the Khabarovsk buff. That's by far my favorite part of this, of course, with the Italian battleships as well. Almost forgot them too. But I'm very, very happy that they're implementing these changes that we've been asking for literally years now when it comes to stuff like the Khabarovsk, right? So these are seriously buffs that the community has been asking Wargaming for. So I gotta give credit where credit is due, and thank Wargaming for listening to the community finally. It took you a minute, Wargaming, but hey, it got there in the end. I'm very, very excited for that. I'm very happy for that. So guys, I'm going to go take a shower because I am jet lagged. So hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Let me know what you guys think about these changes in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. So again, hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.